This year, students of Wisconsin Lutheran College dove in the west basin of Beaver Lake. We also performed fish and plant surveys to quantitatively survey fish populations. Upon getting in at the west basin of the lake, the divers were greeted with a barren, silty bottom. We then found these large craters in the sand, but we are not entirely sure what these are. In the west basin, the divers found several kinds of plants, including Cara, Potamogeton, and invasive Eurasian water milfoil. In terms of invertebrate life, the divers were able to find some freshwater snails and some native mussel species. We also found some invasive zebra mussels, which stick themselves to any hard surface they can find. While diving, we also saw several different species of fish, including largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, rock bass, black crappie, bluegill, and carp, as well as some smaller baitfish and darters. The north side of the basin had a large school of crappie and baitfish, and also had a large multi-species school of largemouth bass, crappie, rock bass, and even a walleye. To monitor fish populations, we set up pike nets in 3 separate locations. The most commonly caught fish were bluegills, but other species that were caught included pumpkin seed sunfish, green sunfish, largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, and some long-nosed gar. We also managed to catch 2 kinds of turtles, a common musk turtle and an angry snapping turtle. At each location, we used purse seine nets to catch any smaller species, such as minnows, shiners, silversides, and darters. We then performed plant surveys using a pole rake and a throw rake. The different plants pulled up included Cara, variable pondweed, spiny naiad, slender naiad, and sago pondweed. The combination of the fish surveys, plant surveys, and scuba dives helps us better understand the ecology of the lake. For instance, carp, crappies, and walleye were only ever seen on the dives, while the gar were only seen in the nets. These dives also informed us as to where the fish were hanging around. In particular, the fish seemed to enjoy hanging around the fish cribs, with the smaller fish staying inside the crib and larger fish patrolling the edges of the crib. The fish were also found swimming in the vegetation, with plenty of baitfish swimming amongst the plant life. In the barren areas of the lake, fish and invertebrate life was scarce. Overall, our efforts determined that the lake was full of life and healthy, and is therefore worth conserving. So what can you do to help keep Beaver Lake clean and healthy? If possible, avoid driving your boat at high speeds, and avoid making large wakes. The silty, marl bottom of the lake makes it easier to kick up, causing water visibility to dramatically decline and hastening shoreline erosion. Next, anytime your boat has entered other waters, be sure to inspect the trailer and boat for any plants. Check that all water is removed from the bilge and live well, and let the boat dry for a week before you launch it again at Beaver Lake. This Eurasian water milfoil at the end of the boat ramp is what happens when inspections aren't done. Draining the bilge and inspecting the trailer helps to make sure that invasive hitchhikers, like zebra mussels and Eurasian water milfoil, don't end up in the lake. Finally, we recommend maintaining a natural shoreline. Natural shorelines typically include emergent and submerged aquatic vegetation, which buffer the shoreline against erosion from waves while also providing habitat for fish and invertebrates. Guidance on maintaining natural shorelines can be found on the Friends of Beaver Lake website, blfriends.org. Beaver Lake is truly a beautiful lake that is worth conserving for future generations to enjoy.